There is a sound in my barn that has been there longer than I have been alive. It sits underneath the noise of the work, underneath the cows shifting in their stanchions, the chains clinking, the milk hitting the pail. If you stop and listen for it, you will hear it coming from every man who has ever worked in that building. A low, steady hum, no melody sometimes, just a note that sits in the chest and comes out through the nose and fills the space between the beams, the way wood smoke fills the space between the rafters. My father did it, and his father did it before him. I do it every morning without deciding to, and most days I do not realize I am doing it until Ruth tells me she could hear me from the kitchen. The sound runs through everything on this community. It is in a barn at 5 in the morning when the Holsteins are being milked, and the man at the stool is humming a tune he learned at church 40 years ago. It is in the kitchen at noon when Ruth is making dinner and the pot is simmering and her voice fills the space between the stove and the window. It is on the lane in the evening when someone walks home and the sound carries through the trees. My grandmother hummed in the kitchen every morning while she rolled out the dough for bread. She hummed 3 or 4 hymns on a slow rotation that never changed in all the years I knew her. The kitchen carried that sound the way it carried the smell of coffee and wood smoke in the early morning light. She did not hum because she was happy, though she usually was. She hummed because her hands were busy, and the sound came out on its own, and it settled something in the room that I could feel as a boy without knowing what it was. The men in the barn hummed while they milked. The women hummed while they hung the laundry. The children hummed while they stacked wood, though their humming was less steady and more likely to turn into a song halfway through. The sound was everywhere all the time, woven into the work the way the work was woven into the day. My name is Noah Yoder, and I am Amish. I farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Most of you watching this live in houses where the loudest sound is the television, or the air conditioner, or the hum of the refrigerator, machines humming instead of people. Your voice sits in your throat all day with nowhere to go except conversation, and conversation uses the voice differently than humming does. The sound I am talking about is the one nobody makes anymore and nobody misses until they hear it again. Today, I want to tell you about something my family has been doing every day of our lives without knowing why it works. It has to do with a nerve that runs from your face all the way down to your chest, and it explains why the calmest people I know are the ones who never stopped using their voice while they work. For the folks who want everything I have taught on this channel in one place, I have put it together in a book. The link is in the description. I will not push it again in. Now, here is what I learned after Ruth pointed out that I hum more than any person she has ever known. The question stuck in my head, why do we all do this? And I went to the library in town to see if anyone had written about it. I asked the woman at the desk if she had anything about humming in the body. She found me a book, and in that book I read something that changed how I understand every morning my grandmother spent at the kitchen counter. There is a nerve in your body that starts at the base of your brain and runs all the way down through your neck, past your heart, through your lungs, and into your belly. The researchers call it the vagus nerve, which comes from a Latin word that means wandering, because this nerve wanders through more of your body than almost any other nerve you have. It touches your heart and tells it how fast to beat. It touches your lungs and tells them how deep to breathe. It touches your gut and tells it when to digest and when to rest. And it controls something the researchers describe as the switch between alarm and calm. Whether your body thinks danger is near, or whether it knows everything is fine and can settle into the business of resting, repairing, and keeping you well. Most folks have never heard of this nerve, but every person watching this has felt it work. The deep breath you take when you are trying to settle yourself down after something upsets you. That breath is reaching for this nerve. The sigh that comes out of you at the end of a long day when you finally sit down. That sigh is this nerve shifting your body from alarm to rest. Your body has been using this nerve your whole life. It just never told you its name. When you hum, the vibration of your voice runs along that nerve, the way your hand runs along a fence wire to test the tension. The nerve feels the vibration and it responds by shifting your body toward rest. Your heart rate slows a little. Your breathing deepens. The muscles in your chest and belly soften. The part of your body that was braced for trouble stands down, and the part that handles healing and rest and digestion switches on. All of that from a sound so quiet the person next to you might not hear it. An honest word here before I go further. I am not a doctor, and nothing I am about to show you replaces anything your doctor has given you. If you are under a doctor's care for anxiety, for your heart, for your breathing, or for anything else, talk to your doctor before you change your habits. What I am showing you is something my family has done without thinking about it for 200 years, and the plain reason it works. It costs nothing, and it requires nothing except your voice. Here is why this matters for the folks watching this. The nerve I just described is the nerve that every stress relief technique in the world is trying to reach. The meditation apps on your telephone are trying to activate this nerve. The breathing exercises your therapist taught you are trying to activate this nerve. The anxiety medication works on the alarm system that this nerve controls. Humming reaches the nerve directly, without an app, without a technique, without a prescription, and without a monthly cost. The vibration goes straight to it. The researchers who have measured this found that humming produces a stronger and more immediate response in this nerve than most of the breathing techniques people are taught in clinical settings. There is no middleman between the hum and the nerve. The sound is the treatment, and the treatment is free. None of this was known to me when I was humming on that fence line. I just knew that the work felt easier when I hummed, and the hours passed without the tightness in my shoulders that comes when the body is braced against the cold or the effort. The knowing came before the science, the way it always does with the things the old folks got right. If you try it, and I hope you will before this video is over, you will feel the shift within the first 2 or 3 minutes. Start humming a tune you know, low and steady, and pay attention to what happens in your chest. The breathing changes first. The exhale gets longer without you trying to lengthen it because the hum rides the exhale the way a boat rides a current. You cannot hum while breathing in, so the body naturally extends the outward breath to keep the sound going, and that extended exhale is exactly what the nerve needs to do its work. Then the shoulders drop, not because you told them to, but because the alarm system that was holding them up received the signal that said it could let go. Then the jaw loosens, and the face softens, and there is a warmth that spreads across the upper chest that has nothing to do with temperature, and everything to do with the nerve shifting the body from brace to rest. Most people cannot believe that something so simple does something so real. But simple and weak are not the same thing, and the sound of your own voice vibrating in your chest has been settling human bodies since long before anyone thought to write it down. Here is what happens if you keep it up for a month. In the first week, you notice the shoulders dropping and the breathing shifting during the hum itself. In the second week, you start noticing that the effect lingers after the humming stops. A residual ease stays with you for 10 or 15 minutes afterward, as if the nerve remembers the signal even after the sound is gone. By the third week, you begin humming without deciding to. It starts happening while you drive, while you garden, while you stand at the sink. The body has learned that the sound helps, and it reaches for the hum the way it reaches for a deep breath after climbing a flight of stairs, not because you decided to, but because the body decided for you. By the end of the month, you will catch yourself humming in places you never expected, and the people around you will notice before you do. The way Ruth noticed me in the barn, doing something I had been doing my whole life without once stopping to ask why it felt so necessary. But humming is only the beginning of what the voice does to that nerve. Because the Amish do not just hum, we sing. You do not need an Amish church service to get what singing gives. You need your voice and a song you know. Sing in the car with the windows up if you are shy about it. Sing in the shower where nobody can hear you but the tiles. Sing along with the radio while you cook supper or weed the garden or fold the laundry. The nerve does not care about the quality of the voice or whether you can hold a tune. It cares about the vibration and the extended exhale, and both of those happen whether you sound like an angel or a barn door. What matters is that the exhale stretches. When you sing, you hold notes, and holding notes means breathing out for 4, 5, 6 seconds at a stretch, far longer than your normal exhale. That extended outward breath is the strongest signal you can send to that nerve. Breathing exercises try to get you to do this on purpose, counting seconds and following patterns. Singing does it without counting, because the melody tells the breath when to go out and when to come back in. The music does the coaching that the app charges you for. And if you can find someone to sing with, the effect doubles. The research on group singing is striking. When 2 or more people sing together, their heart rates begin to synchronize within minutes. The breathing aligns. The stress hormone drops in both singers at once. Something happens between people who share a sound that does not happen when they share a conversation, and the researchers are still trying to explain it fully. But every person who has ever sung with another person in a kitchen, a car, or a church pew knows exactly what the researchers are trying to measure. Every other Sunday, my church district meets in someone's home for services. 30 families, maybe 120 people, packed into a front room with the benches that came on a wagon the day before. And for the better part of 3 hours, we sing. The hymns in our tradition are slow, slower than any music you have heard in a church outside our community. A single hymn can take 20 minutes. The notes are long and the breathing is deep, and the voices fill the room from floor to ceiling without a single instrument to lead them. Just voices, all together, holding notes that last longer than any normal breath would allow. What this does to the nerve is something the researchers have begun to measure, and the results surprised even them. Group singing extends the exhale far beyond what normal breathing or even solo humming does. And the exhale is the half of the breath that activates that nerve most strongly. When you breathe in, the alarm system gets a small nudge. When you breathe out, the calming system gets a nudge. A long, slow exhale, the kind that comes from holding a note in a hymn for 6 or 8 seconds, gives that nerve a sustained push that no short breath can match. Do that for 20 minutes in a room full of people doing it with you, and the effect on the body is something you can feel in your bones. Heart rates begin to synchronize across the room. Breathing patterns align until the whole congregation is inhaling and exhaling together. The stress hormone drops, not just a little but measurably, and the room of people who walked in carrying the weight of the week walk out lighter. None of them would call it therapy. They would call it church. A warmth that comes over a room when 100 voices hold a note together. I have felt it since I was a boy sitting on the bench between my parents. The room stops being a collection of separate people and becomes one breathing thing. Your body knows it belongs to that thing, and the knowing settles you in a way that nothing you do alone can match. I have never found that feeling anywhere else. And I suspect the researchers will spend a long time trying to explain what every person in that room already understands. Researchers have also found something about humming that has nothing to do with the nerve, and it surprised me when I read it. When you hum, the vibration in your nasal passages causes your sinuses to produce a gas that opens the airways and helps your lungs take in more air. The researchers measured this and found that humming increases the production of this gas 15-fold compared to quiet breathing. 15-fold. My grandmother hummed every morning of her life, and she breathed clearly into old age while the folks around her were reaching for sprays and drops and pills for their sinuses every winter. I will not claim the humming was the only reason, but the connection is there. The researchers have found it, and nobody is running a commercial for it because you cannot charge someone for the sound of their own voice. In practical terms, what this means is that humming is not just settling you down, it is opening you up. The airways clear, the breathing deepens, and the lungs receive more air with each breath. If you have ever noticed that you breathe more easily when you are singing in the car or humming while you walk, your body is telling you something real. The gas is doing its work in your sinuses, and it starts within seconds of the hum beginning. The old folks did not know about the gas. They just knew that a morning of humming in the kitchen left them breathing clearly and feeling light. And they never wondered why because they never stopped long enough to notice it was unusual. The key to all of this, the nerve, the sinuses, the breathing, is that it works best when you do it throughout the day rather than in one concentrated session. My grandmother did not hum for 10 minutes and then stop. She hummed while she made breakfast, and hummed while she swept the floor, and hummed while she walked to the garden, and hummed while she hung the wash. The nerve received its signal 100 times a day in small doses, and the body stayed settled because the signal never stopped long enough for the alarm to take over. That nerve does not know whether the vibration comes from a hymn in a farmhouse or a song in your kitchen or a low, steady hum while you fold the laundry. It responds to the vibration regardless of where you are or what you believe or whether anyone is listening. There is one more thing the humming does, and it ties to something I have talked about on this channel before. In the evening, when the work is done and the house is getting quiet, Ruth hums. She hums while she washes the supper dishes, while she folds the towels, while she walks from the kitchen to the sitting room. The humming slows her breathing much as the evening walk drops her body temperature. It sends a signal to the body that the day is ending, and by the time she sits down with her mending, the nerve has been receiving that signal for 20 or 30 minutes, and she is already halfway to sleep without realizing it. She has never needed a pill, a sound machine, or a screen that plays ocean waves to fall asleep. She has her voice, and her voice has always been enough. If you have trouble sleeping, try humming for 10 minutes while you do your evening routine. Wash the dishes and hum. Fold the clothes and hum. Walk from room to room and let a low, steady sound sit in your chest. You are not trying to relax. You are giving the nerve a signal it recognizes and letting the body do what it already knows how to do when that signal arrives. My grandmother comes to mind often when I talk about these things. She stood at that kitchen counter 6 mornings a week for 50 years, humming the same hymns her mother hummed, rolling out bread dough with hands that never shook and a mind that never wandered far from the task. She did not know about the nerve. She did not know about the gas in her sinuses. She did not know that the researchers in Europe and Japan would one day measure what her voice was doing to her body every morning before breakfast. She just hummed because her mother hummed, because her mother's mother hummed, and because the sound of it made the kitchen feel right in a way that silence never quite did. The men who work in the wood shops in my district hum all day long. I have walked through those shops and heard 4 or 5 men humming different tunes at once, each one lost in his own work, and the room feels different from any workplace I have ever visited outside the community. Visitors notice it. An English man who came to order a dining table told me afterward that the shop felt like a different world, quieter, slower, more settled than anywhere he had been in months. He could not put his finger on why, and he stood there for a good while trying. I could. Every man in that room had been vibrating that nerve since 7 in the morning, and by 3 in the afternoon the calm was thick enough to walk through. Our bishop told me once that the woodworkers are the calmest men in the district, and I mentioned that in an earlier video. What I did not tell you then is that every one of them hums while he works. And every one of them has done it since he was a boy sweeping shavings off the floor of his father's shop. The stillness is in the voice, running down that nerve 1,000 times a day, telling the body that everything is fine. And nobody in the business of selling stillness has ever mentioned it. A meditation app costs $10 to $20 a month. Over 10 years, that comes to somewhere between $1,200 and $2,400 spent sitting quietly while a voice on a screen tells you to breathe. A breathing gadget, the kind with colored lights that coach your inhale and exhale, costs $50 to $200 and does mechanically what humming does with the breath alone. Anti-anxiety medication runs $15 to $80 a month, and over a decade that is somewhere between $1,800 and nearly $10,000 for a pill that manages the alarm system this nerve controls. I am not telling you there was a meeting where the app developers and the pharmaceutical companies agreed to keep humming quiet. I do not believe in that kind of thing. It is something worse, a quiet agreement among everybody who profits from your stress to never mention the remedy that costs nothing. The app company does not need to coordinate with the pharmacy. They just need to keep selling, and the sound of your own voice keeps sitting there in your chest, waiting to be used, while an entire industry pretends it does not exist. Your doctor is a good person inside a system that does not have a billing code for humming. The system pays for prescriptions, referrals, and 20-minute appointments. Nobody in that system has time to say, try humming for 10 minutes while you wash the dishes. So it never comes up, and you walk out with a bottle instead of a song. My grandmother would have given you the song at no charge, and the song would have lasted longer than the bottle. So here is what I want you to do tomorrow morning. One thing and nothing else. While you make your coffee, hum. Any tune you know. A hymn if you have one, a song from your childhood if you do not, or just a low and steady note that sits comfortably in your throat and vibrates in your chest. Hum. For 5 minutes. You do not have to close your eyes or sit in a special position or download anything or buy anything. Just let the sound vibrate while your hands do whatever they are already doing. Feel where the vibration sits in your throat, in your jaw, behind your nose, in the bones your face. That vibration is running along the longest nerve in your body and telling every organ it touches that the day is safe and the body can do its quiet work. If you feel self-conscious about it, hum quietly. The nerve does not care about volume. A hum so soft that only you can hear it produces the vibration, just as well as one that fills the room. If you do this tomorrow morning and notice that something in your chest or your shoulders or your breathing loosens in a way you did not expect, do it again the next morning. And while you wash the dishes after supper, and while you walk to the mailbox, let the humming find its way into the cracks of your day, the way it found its way into my grandmother's kitchen. Not as a practice or a technique, but as a sound that belongs in the house because the house feels different with it there. By the end of the first week, the humming will feel less like something you're doing on purpose and more like something your body was waiting for you to remember. Tomorrow morning, I will walk into the barn before the sky is fully light. The Holsteins will be standing at their stanchions, waiting. And before I sit down on the stool and reach for the first pail, that sound will start. The one that has been in this barn longer than I have been alive. Low and steady, sitting in my chest, filling the space between the beams. I will not decide to do it. I never do. The sound comes because the work comes. The work has always carried a hum inside it on this farm, and the hum has always carried something inside it that I did not understand until I went looking for the reason. Tell me in the comments if you hum, or if your grandmother hummed or your grandfather whistled while he worked, or your mother sang in the kitchen when she thought nobody was listening. Those sounds are the oldest medicine there is, and the memory of them matters more than you might think right now. I read every single one. Next time I am going to show you what happens to your body when you sleep. The way my family sleeps, in true darkness, with no screen, no light, and no sound but the wind. Ruth has slept through the night, every night for 40 years without a pill, and the reason starts with what happens when the last light goes out. What your body needs has not changed in 10,000 years. Only what they sell you has changed.